Hi, welcome back to 17 Square Meters Garden. Today I want to give you a few ideas on what plants you can plant on your balcony in fall that will provide a beautiful pop of color and that will not die with the first frost. I also have a winter version of this video where I talk about frost-hardy plants that will brighten up your balcony in winter. So if you do want to check this out, I will put the link in the description box and I will also leave the video in the propositions at the end of this video. But for now, let's talk about fall plants that are available at the garden centers right now that you can buy and make your balcony look beautiful this fall. Okay, let's start with some classics, heathers and heaths. And I don't have heaths because at the garden center they only had green ones and I didn't want a green one. So heathers and heaths, they are classics. When I think about fall, I think about these plants. They are very similar, and for me they are a little bit like geraniums and pelargoniums, in a way that no one knows which one is which one and we keep using the names alternately. They are both very similar and the maintenance is similar as well. They are perennials, so you can keep them, you can grow them for many years, and they are also winter hardy, so they will look great all the way until spring. But if you did ever buy these plants and you planted them on your balcony and they died during winter, it would be a mistake to assume that they died because of frost, because the trick is that these plants are ericaceous, so it means they need an ericaceous potting mix. So that's a potting mix that has a low pH. If you plant them in a universal potting mix that has either neutral to slightly alkaline pH, what happens is that certain nutrients are only available at certain pH levels. For example, iron is only available at the lower pH levels. So if you plant them in a higher pH level, those nutrients become unavailable to them, they can't absorb them, and they literally die of starvation, they die of nutrient deficiency. So that's what happens most of the time. So if you do want to keep them for many years, or if you want them to bloom and to look beautiful all the way until spring, then definitely plant them in an ericaceous potting mix. And if you think that, well, I don't want to buy an ericaceous potting mix just to plant this one plant, there are actually a lot of plants that either like acidic soil or don't mind acidic soil. We can definitely mix heathers and heaths with other plants in that ericaceous potting mix. I'm gonna talk about those plants in a minute. Next is a really funny group of plants, which are ornamental cabbages. They are honestly so pretty. They are edible, but it's not recommended to eat them because obviously they were bred to look beautiful, not to taste nicely. So only use them for ornamental purposes. They are super pretty. They really look nice with other plants in compositions, or even on their own. If you have smaller pots and you just put several pots of ornamental cabbages, I think that looks really cool as well. They are very winter hardy, so frost will not damage them. If the older leaves get a little bit ugly, you can just pull them off and then the fresh leaves will keep appearing. They will look like this until spring, and in spring, when the weather starts to warm up, they will start to bloom, and that's actually really funny because they will start to grow taller and taller, like a little tower of cabbage, and then they have those beautiful spikes of yellow flowers that attract pollinators early in spring. So that's also really great because they will provide for pollinators when there's not much else blooming at that time. So definitely cabbage is also a great plant to plant on your balcony, to add it to compositions or just to plant it on its own. Ornamental cabbages actually prefer lower soil pH, so you can definitely plant them with heathers and heaths in that ericaceous potting mix we just spoke about. They look really beautiful side by side. Okay, next beautiful plant to plant on your balcony in fall is cyclamen. But be careful here because there are different types of cyclamen, different species of cyclamen. So a lot of the times you will see at the garden centers those a little bit larger cyclamens. There are even bigger ones than this. For example, this one is called cyclamen persicum. And you can plant them on your balcony in fall, they will look beautiful, but they are not very frost hardy. They may tolerate some light frost, and if you live in a mild climate, for example, I garden in zone 8B, and some of them tend to survive winter for me. I have grown them in the past and they did survive frost, but theoretically they are not frost hardy. So if you are searching for some cyclamen that will survive frost and that will look great even throughout winter and all the way till spring, there are some species of perennial cyclamens. So if you go to the garden center, do ask about perennial cyclamens if you want to grow them for many years. Here I have Cyclamen hederifolium, ivy-leafed cyclamen. They are smaller, as you can see, the blooms are smaller than those frost tender cyclamens, but they are equally cute and they look really lovely, like in a real garden situation when you plant them in a drift, in sort of a woodland garden tem or shade garden. I think that looks really pretty, but you can sort of replicate that on your balcony if you either plant several of them in one larger container, or if you plant them in smaller container and you just dot them all around your balcony. I think that looks really pretty. Okay, next one is one of my all-time favorite plants, which is Heuchera. Honestly, if I were to grow only one plant on my balcony, it would be this one. They come in such a range of colors. They are just so pretty. You can find colors all the way from like green and yellowish through purples and pinks and peaches and oranges all the way until black. So many colors. Everyone will find something that they like, I think. They are perennial, they are very winter hardy. They are hardy down to zone 4. I mean, obviously in pots that hardiness is a little bit decreased because plants are more exposed, but nevertheless they are very frost hardy. They are evergreen, so they will keep that beautiful foliage all through the winter. And I mean, if you live in a very cold climate, the leaves may start to look a little bit tired, a little bit ugly, but then you can just cut them off and in spring they will start to grow new, fresh, brightly colored leaves. They also bloom sometime at the beginning of summer with little bell-shaped flowers that pollinators absolutely love. So that's a really great plant to plant either on its own, or you can add it to compositions. You can also divide it really easily. If you take a look inside the pot, you will see that you can easily divide it if you just take it out of its pot and cut through. You have those little clumps that you can divide. You can propagate and have more of those gorgeous Heucheras. I have, I think, like 5 or 6 different Heucheras on my balcony, and I love every single one of them. So that's definitely a beautiful plant to add to your fall compositions, and then in spring you can just take it out of the composition and plant it on its own and enjoy it year round and for many years to come. Next are violas, violas and pansies. Every pansy is viola, but not every viola is a pansy. And I know from you guys that in some areas they are not available. In some countries where you live, they are not available in fall, they are only available in spring. So the solution to that is to grow them from seeds. I enjoy growing them from seeds very much. I actually seeded some this year as well. Yet again, I was a little bit late, so my plants are still quite small. But they are really easy to grow from seeds, and there are some lovely cultivars available. For example, this year I'm growing some pansies with ruffled petals, which I can never find at the garden center, so I'm really excited to grow them this year. So yeah, you can grow them easily from seeds. They are winter hardy, although if it gets really frosty during the night, you will find them in the morning like flopped and looking a little bit sad, but usually during the day they just come and they start to open their blooms again and look really pretty. So they are winter hardy, although if you live in a really cold climate, they may look a little bit sad indeed because of the frost. But as I said, they are still a great addition to your fall garden, and they will not die with the first frost. It's just that they may not look the most attractive during winter if you live in a very cold climate. The next plant on my list is ivy. Ivy is a great trailing plant to add to your compositions. It's super winter hardy. It's hardy down to, most ivies are hardy down to zone 3. They are literally impossible to kill. They look great in fall compositions, and then in spring you can take them out and you can grow them permanently on your balcony as a perennial plant. They are evergreen, so they will always provide that green foliage, that interest throughout the year. And what I did with my ivy, that's actually, I'm gonna show you a picture. I bought this ivy, I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I grew it in a beautiful composition with pansies in a basket. And then I didn't want to get rid of it in spring, so I bought an obelisk, this cone-shaped obelisk, and I planted ivy all around at the bottom, and I trained it to grow on top of this obelisk, and now I have this lovely cone-shaped topiary, and I really love it because it provides height, it provides interest year-round, it's very resistant, draft tolerant, frost hardy. You can also take cuttings, it propagates super easily from cuttings, so if next year again you will need some ivy to add to your compositions, you can just take cuttings ahead of time, put them either in water or directly in soil. They propagate super easily. So yeah, definitely a great plant to have on your balcony, multi-purpose I would say. You can buy different shapes of obelisk or trellises, or like, you know, have fun with this, create some forms. I've seen people make some heart-shaped forms or some rounded circles and grow ivy on top of that. I think that's really lovely. So yeah, definitely a great plant to add to your balcony garden. And ivy also doesn't mind the slightly acidic soil. It can tolerate basically any soil pH. So you can add it as a trailing plant in your composition with other ericaceous plants. And the last one on my list today, which is not in bloom yet, is chrysanthemum. You can buy them in bloom already at the garden centers, I think, but mine is not in bloom yet because I grow them as perennials, so I keep mine from year to year. They are amazing when you keep them from year to year because they bloom even better the next year, and you can propagate them easily as well, although they are commonly available and they are not very expensive, so of course, you can buy new ones every year, but I really like to keep some favorite varieties from year to year. For example, this one is really amazing. I bought it as a really small plant at the grocery store last winter, and it has amazing blooms. The blooms are really large and they look like fireworks. Most of the plants that I spoke about today, they are very winter hardy. Chrysanthemums are not very winter hardy. I mean, they will not die with the first frost, but in cold climates they will definitely not survive winter. I garden in zone 8B and I managed to keep them from year to year and they don't die during winter. And also the older they are, the more resistant they become in my experience. They may not survive winter where you live, but they will definitely provide a beautiful pop of color in fall. Okay, so that's all the plants that I wanted to talk about today. As I mentioned, I also have that other video where I talk about winter plants, and many of those plants that I mentioned in that other video are also available in fall. So if you need more inspiration than what I just shared today, definitely check that video out, because I just simply didn't want to repeat the same plants in both of these videos. So yeah, thanks for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!